and welcome back to my channel. So one of my 3, maybe 4 current works in progress takes place during the American Revolution. This series is going to span a year or so before and then all 8 years of the war. And it's so interesting to do research in a different time period, and I'm really enjoying it. Now, with all of my historical fiction novels, I'm including actual historic figures, and one of the things that I'm most excited about with this series is that I can incorporate one of my own ancestors into the story. Let's learn more about him, and especially a battle that he is known to have taken part in, Lexington and Concord. Parker was born on May 21st, 1743 in Reading, Middlesex County, Massachusetts, to Captain Nathan and Tabitha Parker. Reading is about 14 miles north of Boston, so he likely grew up and spent his young adulthood in the middle of many events that led to the Revolution. Caleb married Hannah Gearfield, but as with a lot of things during this time period, I haven't been able to find out exactly when. Their first child was born in 1777, so their marriage would have had to have been before that. Caleb was 32 when Lexington and Concord broke out, and Hannah was 25, so again, it's likely that they were married when the war actually broke out. Now, in terms of the actual battle, in April of 1775, British General Thomas Gage was facing the threat of outright rebellion in the colonies, specifically Boston. He wanted to prevent any more violence by ordering the seizure of weapons and powder that were being stored in Concord, Massachusetts, about 20 miles northwest of Boston. However, Patriot spies heard of Gage's plan, and on the night of April 18th, Paul Revere and other riders raised the alarm that British regulars were on their way to Concord. Minutemen and colonial militias gathered to confront them early on April 19th. British troops marched into the small town of Lexington at about 5 o'clock a.m. and found themselves faced by a militia company of more than 70 men led by Captain John Parker. Now, I can't find any direct connection between Caleb and John, but it makes sense that they would be somehow related. They both lived in the same area and they had the same last name, even as common of a last name as Parker. When the British force rushed toward the militiamen across the town green, Parker immediately ordered his company to disperse. Most began to, and they did it slowly, but before they could fully all do so, a shot rang out. Historians still debate who fired this first shot, which became known as the shot heard round the world. Nervous British soldiers fired a volley at the Americans, killing 7 and mortally wounding 1 of the retreating militiamen. The British column moved on toward Concord, leaving the dead, wounded, and dying as they did so. The British arrived in Concord at about 8 o'clock a.m., and they set out to secure the North Bridge across the Concord River, and then continue on another mile to the Barrett Farm, where a stash of arms and powder was rumored to be located. A growing assembly of close to 400 militia from Concord and the surrounding towns gathered on the high ground where they saw smoke rising from Concord. The militia companies assumed that the Redcoats were torching the town. Now, this wasn't the case, but since they thought so, they advanced. As the Minutemen marched down the hill, the British soldiers retreated to the opposite shore and prepared to defend themselves. When the first colonial company came within range, the Redcoats opened fire. The Minutemen responded, killing 3 British soldiers and wounding 9 others. This sent the British troops retreating back to Boston, and the retreat turned into a rout as the British were attacked from all sides by swarms of angry Minutemen. When they reached Lexington, Parker's men were able to take their revenge for the violence that had been suffered that morning by firing on the British regulars from behind cover. For the next 12 miles, the British were continually ambushed by Minutemen shooting from behind trees and rock walls and buildings. British reinforcements reached the men on the eastern outskirts of Lexington, but the Minutemen pursued them as they retreated back to Boston. The British conducted a running fight until they could reach the cover of British guns on the ships that were anchored in the waterways surrounding Boston. The Patriots kept chasing them, but having no clear orders, they ultimately let them escape. In the wake of Lexington and Concord, the colonial militia surrounded Boston and began the Siege of Boston, which eventually led to other main battles like the Battle of Bunker Hill. The fight at Lexington and Concord was the first battle in a long 8 years of Americans fighting for their independence. So that's all I have for today. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell. And in the comments, please let me know of any other historical topics or any other writing or book related topics that you would like to hear me talk about. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.